Okay, I want to thank you all for staying here this afternoon to hear my presentation. My name is DaMonica Cannon. I am a RN to BSN senior student at Columbus State University. And I want to thank my guest, Myra Alston, one of our nurse managers, for being here, Sandra Johnson, our director of nursing, Crystal Collier, one of our nurse managers also, and my mother, who was going to be my backup photographer. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. And this is my capstone project. And my project is prevention of falls and fall injuries in the older adult. In long-term care, we have several quality measures that we monitor on a quarterly basis. Things such as long and short stay pain, pressure ulcers, new pressure ulcers, worsening pressure ulcers, UTIs, weight loss, and restraints, just to name a few. We review our own quality measure report, which is our CASPER report, and that helps us to see where do we fall compared to other facilities statewide and nationally. In this presentation, the focus will be on one of the quality measures we constantly monitor on a monthly basis. Y'all know we've been doing our monthly QAs on falls. And so that's falls and falls with major injury. That's what this presentation is about. This is a chart of our fall rates and fall with injury rates from last quarter. And as you can see, the facility, which historically we have always been above state and national levels, but on this chart right here, the facility is actually just a little bit lower than state and national levels. As far as falls with injuries, we are above state and national levels. So that's just going on our last CASPER report from last quarter. We want them to be a little bit lower, I'm sure. Approximately 50% to 75% of 1.63 million long-term care residents have had a fall, and these falls were responsible for over 1,600 deaths in 2006. It is important for us as a facility to decrease our fall rate and thus improve the morale and our patients' quality of life. The objective of this presentation is to present evidence-based information that supports a systemic change to decrease our facility's fall and fall injury rate. And I will present a proposal later in my presentation that the facility can consider implementing. As a facility, we want to have better fall and fall with injury rates when compared to other facilities locally and statewide and nationally. We also want to do better than we did the previous quarter. We want to rate ourselves against ourselves in the previous quarter. And we want our residents to have the highest quality of life as expected. Although we discuss admissions in our daily PAR meeting, not enough emphasis is put on the fall risk assessment tool that we do on our new admissions. My proposed change is for us to develop and to follow a fall algorithm based on our fall risk assessment score. Because we know that on that fall risk assessment, things like medications have to be taken into account and certain diagnoses have to be taken into account. Certain diagnoses make you a higher risk for a fall in certain medication groups. In my research, in one of the articles, there was an algorithm that was mentioned, and it was developed based on scores of patients received on their fall risk assessment to determine their fall risk. So that algorithm had to do with determining their fall risk. And it was composed of 3-level assessments to determine fall risk and 3-level intervention methods. The algorithm that I want to suggest for our facility will be a little bit different, and that I would require the fall assessment tool that we utilize to be a justifying tool to go to that fall agri-lateral. In other words, if the fall assessment tool score is 10 or higher, then the nurse will be directed to follow the fall agri-lateral to initiate fall interventions. This is my PICO question. The P stands for patient, problem, or population. The I stands for intervention. The C stands for comparison, and the O is for outcome. So my PICO question is, in the older adult, how does implementing fall interventions for fall risk residents / patients upon admission compare to not implementing fall interventions for fall risk residents, patients upon admission? Basically, how does it compare if we determine on admission if they're fall risk versus not making that determination? Okay, article number 1. This study used a methodological approach to form evidence-based guidelines to prevent falls in the older adult in the long care facilities. So they were focusing on prevention guidelines. The focus was determining risk factors and appropriate interventions based on those risk factors. And falls exist more among the older adult is basically just a symptom of getting older, the aging process. Also in this article, falls occur as a result of 2 types of risk factors. And one is intrinsic factors, which are factors related to physical and cognition. And then the second one is extrinsic factors, which are environmental related, Often falls occur due to a combination of causes. Therefore, it takes a team approach to come up with new interventions to prevent falls. The most common injury related to falls are fractures. When fractures occur, it results in higher medical costs, and it often leads to other health-related complications. And some of those complications include just a general decline, withdrawal, constipation, a decline in quality of life, immobility. So those are also complications associated with falls. Article number 2. This article used an observational cross-section study for over 1 year to analyze the combination between falls and new admissions to long-term care and the characteristics. So he looked at new admissions and the characteristics of the different facilities. Falls that occurred in long-term care contributed to higher morbidity, mortality, and cost of providing needed health care associated with the falls. And that's similar to what was mentioned in the last article. You have complications from the fall. So that raises the health care costs. Falls are reported as a long-term quality measure indicator, we kind of said that in the beginning, by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Risk factors include previous fall, physical decline, a high number of medications, and like I said before, the different classifications of medicines, as well as visual and auditory impairments. New admissions were prone to falls due to a change in environment and not being familiar with the staff or the facility, and also just having generalized weakness coming from the hospital. So they don't really have their strength like they had before going to the hospital. In comparing the facilities' characteristics, homes that had a higher CNA staffing had lower fall rates, as well as those that were for-profit and independently owned, they had lower fall rates. Residents that were typically admitted to for-profit independent homes, they were usually younger people, so they wasn't really frail and old. So they didn't have the high fall rates compared to those other facilities, and they did not have a fall history, and they took fewer medicines. So that made a difference in the characteristic of those type facilities. Article number 3, the most frequent cause of approximately 90% of hip and wrist factors are contributed to falls, as well as 60% of head injuries. This objective research is needed because in this particular article, more of this information was based on subjective data versus objective data. So it was just saying they needed more information to really make a determination. Article number 4. This was also a cross-sectional study that examined the connection between balance and cognition and falls of the long-term resident in a fall prevention program. This article was done in a facility that had a fall prevention program, and they sort of tested the residents' balance and their cognition. And the higher the fall risk increased with the higher number of fall risk factors. So we pretty much said that before. Okay, this is the change theory. This is the change theory. There are 3 levels in the change theory in nursing and just anything in general. So the 3 levels is unfreeze. That's the first level. Unfreeze means that you have to undo your old way of thinking. Old patterns, old ways of doing it has to be gone. The change represents the new change. We have to move to do something new. Refreezing is rethinking our new standard. So we have to do training and just keep doing it, and that's our new standard. So the 3 stages of the fall of the change theory is unfreeze, change, and refreeze. And again, this slide right here just kind of go over what I just said, that in unfreezing we have to unlearn old ways, old patterns of completing the fall risk assessment, because that's what we're talking about. The change is stage number 2. This involves a change in thought process, because we want to change our thinking. We don't want to continue to think the old ways and implement the change, to actually implement the change. Refreezing is sticking to that new pattern and keeping it. Okay, recommendations. It is important for us as a facility to decrease our fall rate. We must place special importance on preventing falls, especially when we know a resident has a fall history. My recommendation for us is to analyze the fall risk assessment tool that we use on new admissions more thoroughly. So when we are in PAR meeting and we mention this assessment is done, this assessment is done, this assessment is done, my recommendation is that we look at that fall risk and look at the actual score, the bottom line score, and the different medicine categories and the different diagnoses to determine how that resident is gonna fall as far as being a fall risk. The fall algorithm I'm recommending is just a guide to assist the charge nurse in implementing new approaches to prevent falls or to decrease falls. And we know that this is a copy of the fall risk assessment tool that we use. That's just a copy of it. We just want to pay more attention to those areas and the bottom line score. The algorithm would utilize our fall risk assessment tool to justify using it, basically what I just said. In other words, if the fall assessment score is 10 or higher, the nurse would be directed to follow the algorithm and to initiate fall prevention interventions. The first few interventions that the nurse would initiate would be things that we do just general as a facility, such as bed and body, chair alarm, low bed, mats, non-skid socks, things like that. The subsequent interventions would be individualized. There would be a preset option for the nurse to circle and date when those particular interventions are put into place. So we basically will be giving the nurses some interventions to sort of jump their thought process and put something in place. If the resident has a score of 9 or less on their fall assessment tool, at that point, it wouldn't really be a need to do the algorithm. However, once that resident has a score of with a 9 or less on their fall assessment, however, once those residents with a 9 or less have a fall, then we would need to initiate that fall aguilera. The interdisciplinary team will continue to meet either during our morning PAR meeting or regular care plan meeting to discuss the effectiveness of the fall aguilera. This is an example of one that could be used here, or we all could come up with a different one, but this is just an example. If the fall assessment tool score is 10 or higher, then the nurse would initiate body alarm, bed alarm, chair alarm, nugget, socks, low bed with mats if appropriate. And she can also give determine individualized interventions there. And as a team, we can come up with some individualized interventions for that resident. Implementing the intervention, who would be responsible? The charge nurse or the supervisor that's on duty when the resident have a fall. So once they have a fall, like I said, we have to initiate that fall aguilera, and it would be the charge nurse responsibility to do that, as well as the fall risk assessment tool. And when would we do it? We would do it for new admissions with a fall risk assessment score of 10 or higher, when the resident has a fall, and when we know they have a fall history. And where would it be done? It would be done on the unit that the resident resides. And how? The nursing staff will be trained on how and when to initiate the fall aguilera. The data collection, we would use our fall logs that we keep up on a monthly basis and the unusual occurrence book to determine if the frequent fallers, if their falls have decreased, and as a facility, if our fall numbers have decreased. Sort of what we do now on a monthly basis in our monthly QA meeting. Now, question for you guys. Do you think this new fall aguilera would work or something similar? Are you willing to try the aguilera on one unit initially as a pilot effort?
Yes.
If not on one unit, are you willing to try the fall aguilera on a few of our residents who fall frequently? Are there ideas you want me to incorporate?
I think this happens. It's good.
Is there a goal that we want as far as lowering our fall rates? Is there a certain goal that we would want to reach?
Yes, I think it's a goal. We should want to be below the national and state.
Good answers. Okay, depending on the answer to those survey questions that I just asked, it would depend on how we would test. You know, you all said one unit or the frequent fallers. That would depend on how we tested. The people involved in the process, of course, would be the charge nurses, the nurse managers, the nurse supervisors, and our CNAs. That's just my couple that says they would not fall because they don't want any fractures. Okay, our improved patient outcomes that we expect. Our facility is a facility that represents culture change, and we all know that culture change is a concept of care being provided on a personalized level, person-directed versus the old institutionalized way. That's what we have here at this facility. When the resident is compliant and falls are reduced, there is a reduction in injury, and the resident's quality of life is improved. We want our residents to experience the ultimate quality of life while residing in our facility, which is their home. Also, in a time where there is a lot of threat of litigation, we want to decrease that possibility also. Our senior leadership takes each and every fall serious and is very involved in identifying strategies to decrease our fall rate. Because like I said, we meet monthly in our monthly subcommittee QA meeting. expected outcomes, decrease in our resident